You wrote that if you told her, then she would tell her family, and you'd be afraid that it would spin
That's
out
right.
from there.
Which exactly is what happened.
Is that how it got out?
Well, with this
You
matter,
assume it's how it
I'm
got
just
out.
saying. I'm just saying it was a perfect proof.
One secret destroyed everything Arnold Schwarzenegger spent a lifetime building. For years, the actor, politician, and family man appeared to have the perfect life. But behind the scenes, a truth was waiting to surface. One that would shake his family, damage his reputation, and become one of the most talked about scandals of his life.
I got separated and I found myself in my mid-50s thinking like, okay, what do I do now? Where am I going? Who am I?
So how did that secret stay hidden for so long? And what really happened when it finally came to light? Join us as we uncover the scandal that changed Arnold Schwarzenegger's life forever. The marriage that looked perfect from the outside. The marriage between Arnold Schwarzenegger and Maria Shriver started as a genuine alliance between two of the most ambitious and disciplined people of their generation. It was built over years of real commitment, and it was breaking down from multiple directions before the housekeeper secret arrived to finish the job. Arnold Schwarzenegger was born in Thal, a small village near Graz in Austria. His childhood was shaped by a strict, sometimes harsh father who was a local police chief and who made no secret of his preference for Arnold's older brother, Meinhard. The household was not warm. The emotional environment he grew up in was one in which feelings were not discussed, and vulnerability was not tolerated. Arnold has said in interviews that his father regularly made him feel inferior, and that he used the need to prove himself as fuel for the extraordinary physical and professional discipline he developed. He became a bodybuilding champion, won the Mr. Universe title at 20, won Mr. Olympia 7 times, moved to America with virtually nothing, and built a career that produced the Terminator franchise, Total Recall, Predator, and a commercial footprint that made him one of the highest-paid actors of the 1980s and 90s. Maria Shriver, on the other hand, was born into the Kennedy family, one of the most powerful political dynasties in American history. Her father, Sergeant Shriver, was the first director of the Peace Corps and a Democratic vice presidential candidate. Her uncle was President John F. Kennedy. Her family expected achievement, expected public service, and expected the management of a public image with the care and discipline that came from decades of navigating political scrutiny. Maria became a journalist, worked at network television, and built a career that was entirely her own, rather than simply a product of her name. They met at a tennis tournament in 1977, when he was 29 and she was 21. He was a bodybuilder and actor with a thick Austrian accent and an outsized personality. She was a Kennedy from a world that could not have been more different from his origins. They dated for 9 years before marrying on April 26, 1986, and built a family of 4 children together. Arnold then pivoted to politics and ran for governor of California in the 2003 recall election. He won and served 2 terms through 2011. During those years, Maria stepped back from her own broadcasting career to serve as First Lady of California, a sacrifice that she has described in subsequent interviews as something she chose, while simultaneously finding it more difficult than she expected. The Los Angeles Times ran a story in October 2003, just days before the recall election, reporting allegations of sexual misconduct against Arnold from multiple women who claimed he had groped or inappropriately touched them without consent. Maria Shriver stood beside him at a campaign event and publicly defended him, calling the reporting gutter politics. He eventually won the election and was sworn in as governor. He later acknowledged that the Times reporting had been substantially accurate. Maria had defended him from something she did not know was true. But the biggest secret of all was still years away from being uncovered. So, what exactly had been happening inside the Schwarzenegger household since 1996, and how had it remained hidden for so long. 15 years of a hidden life. Mildred Patricia Baena had been employed as a housekeeper in the Schwarzenegger household for about 20 years by the time the secret was revealed. She was a trusted member of the household staff, someone who worked inside the family's private spaces and had the kind of access to the family's daily life that only someone in that position could have. She was married to a man named Rogelio de Jesus Baena at the time of the affair. In 1996, while Maria Shriver was away on vacation with their 4 children, Arnold had sex with Mildred Baena in the guest house of the California mansion, and she became pregnant. Because she was married to someone else, and because Arnold did not immediately consider himself the father, the child was initially understood by everyone, including Arnold himself, to be her husband's. Joseph Baena was born in 1997, 5 days after Maria Shriver, who was pregnant with Arnold's 4th child at the same time, gave birth to their son Christopher. Arnold has said in his 2023 Netflix docuseries and in his 2012 memoir, Total Recall, that in the beginning he genuinely did not know Joseph was his son. He assumed the child belonged to Mildred's husband. But as Joseph grew older, the physical resemblance to Arnold became impossible to ignore. He said in interviews that looking at Joseph as he grew up, seeing his own face reflected back at him, was when he understood the truth of what he was looking at. He continued employing Mildred Baena in the household after the affair as an attempt to control the situation. For 15 years, Mildred Baena worked in the Schwarzenegger home. For 15 years, Joseph Baena grew up without publicly knowing who his father was. For 15 years, Maria Shriver shared her home, her life, and her husband with a woman who was the mother of a child her husband had fathered. Arnold carried this secret through 2 terms as governor of California, through the period when he was one of the most publicly scrutinized politicians in the state, through every appearance alongside Maria at public events, through every family photograph, through every Christmas, birthday, and graduation. And Maria, who had defended him publicly and given up her own career to support his political ambitions, knew none of it. The question of how he justified this to himself across 15 years is one that he has addressed in his memoir and in interviews, and the answers he provides do not quite manage to cover the full scale of what he was doing. He has said it was wrong and has also tried to explain it in ways that do not fully land. So how did 15 years of secrecy finally come to an end? And what was the specific moment when the truth came out? The day everything collapsed. Arnold Schwarzenegger's final term as governor of California ended on January 3, 2011. He had served 2 terms, navigated the state through a severe economic crisis during the Great Recession, and was leaving office with a reputation that was complicated by both his policy record and the ongoing whispers about his personal life that had never fully gone away since the 2003 Los Angeles Times reporting. Maria Shriver had been waiting. She had been seeing a therapist alongside Arnold as they tried to understand what their marriage was and what it needed now that the governorship was over and they were returning to private life. And she had a question that had been building for some time. Arnold described the moment in both his memoir and his Netflix docuseries. He and Maria went to their weekly therapy session. The therapist turned to him and said that Maria wanted to ask something specific. She wanted to know whether he was the father of Joseph Baena. He has said in interviews that he felt his heart stop when the question was asked. And then he told the truth. He confirmed to his wife in a therapy session that yes, the child of their housekeeper who had been growing up alongside their own children was his son. He had kept this secret for 15 years. Maria had suspected enough to bring it to a therapy session. The confirmation in that room was the end of 25 years of marriage. In his memoir, Total Recall, Arnold described telling Maria that it was his screw-up, that she was the perfect wife, and that he was still attracted to her. He gave what the New York Daily News, which reviewed the book, described as 3 lame reasons for having hidden the truth for so long, one of which was that he had not wanted to confront her Kennedy family connections with the disclosure. He wrote that the affair had been a single encounter rather than a sustained relationship. Maria Shriver filed for divorce in 2011, the same year the affair and Joseph's existence were made public. She described the immediate aftermath in her 2025 book, I Am Maria, writing that she sat on a hotel room floor in the dark, terrified and alone, with tears streaming down her face. She described being consumed with grief and racked with confusion, anger, fear, sadness, and anxiety. She wrote that her 25-year marriage had blown up, that it broke her heart, broke her spirit, and broke what was left of her. She described not knowing who she was or where she belonged. The divorce filing was made in 2011. The process has never been formally completed. As of 2025, more than 14 years after the filing, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Maria Shriver are still legally married, one of the more remarkable pieces of legal limbo in the history of celebrity divorces. But what's making waves now is what Arnold said. Let's reveal that. What Arnold refused to fully acknowledge. Arnold Schwarzenegger has been more publicly open about the affair and its consequences than most people in his position typically choose to be. He has discussed it in his memoir, in press interviews, in the Netflix docuseries simply titled Arnold that premiered in 2023, and in various conversations with journalists over the years since 2011. He consistently described the affair as a single encounter in 1996, rather than an ongoing relationship. He said that he initially had no reason to believe Joseph was his child. He has acknowledged that as Joseph grew older and the resemblance became undeniable, he understood the truth, but kept it from Maria. He has said he was wrong to do so. He has said he is ashamed. What he described in his 2023 Netflix docuseries, when asked directly about how the moment of confession felt, was that he thought his heart stopped when the therapist asked the question. He has said that watching Maria be crushed by the confirmation was one of the hardest moments of his life. He has said that he understands why she was devastated and that she had every right to be. What he has been considerably less forthcoming about is the specific decision to keep Mildred Baena employed in the household for years after the affair, and after he had begun to understand that Joseph was his child. He described it in his memoir as controlling the situation. The phrase is one of those constructions that sounds like an explanation while actually saying very little about the moral reasoning, if any, that went into it. He was, in effect, keeping the mother of his secret child in his wife's home, collecting her paycheck from the family for years. He has also been limited in what he has said publicly about Joseph himself in the years immediately following the disclosure. Joseph Baena grew up without public acknowledgement of who his father was. He found out the truth in the same way everyone else did, through the media coverage in 2011. He was 13 years old. The experience of discovering in that specific way that the man who was your father had kept your existence secret from his legitimate family for your entire life is not something Arnold has addressed with the specificity it deserves in any of his public statements. Joseph Baena has since built his own public profile. He is an actor and fitness enthusiast who has appeared in film and television projects. He has spoken about having a relationship with Arnold, describing it as a father-son bond that has developed over time. He credits his mother Mildred with his cooking skills and other aspects of his upbringing and has spoken warmly about her. He has also acknowledged the specific difficulty of his situation without appearing to carry public resentment toward Arnold, which requires a generosity that was not necessarily owed. Arnold's 4 children with Maria faced the disclosure in a way that Maria acknowledged in her 2025 book was brutal, describing everything about their world and the sanctity of their home being uprooted in an instant. She praised what she called the grace, valor, and courage they exhibited. Several of them went quiet on social media at the time of the disclosure. Their father's political career and public image had been the backdrop of their entire lives, and the revelation that it had been built on a secret of this kind was not something their upbringing had prepared them for. Arnold wasn't the only one that had things to say in his defense. Maria also had some things to get off her chest as well. Maria Shriver's revelation. Maria Shriver's response to everything that happened in 2011 and in the years since has been one of the more quietly remarkable aspects of the full story. She did not respond with the kind of dramatic public rupture that the disclosure might have justified. She has built a life and a public voice in the years since the filing that is entirely on her own terms, and what she has chosen to say, when she has chosen to say it, reflects a level of emotional intelligence and hard-won self-awareness that is worth paying proper attention to. In her 2025 memoir, I Am Maria, she wrote about the breakdown with a honesty that she had largely withheld in the years immediately following 2011. She described sitting on a hotel room floor in the dark. She described being consumed as pregnant with Arnold's 4th child, at the same with grief and racked with confusion, anger, fear, sadness, and anxiety. She described the marriage ending as breaking her heart, her spirit, and what was left of her. She described not knowing who she was or where she belonged. She also wrote, in a poem titled At First Love that appeared in the book, about the marriage moving from love and freedom to pain and prison. She has also said in the same book that she does not want to discuss the details of the marriage's end at length, and that she had acknowledged it enough for her own purposes. She used the disclosure to acknowledge her children's courage in navigating it, rather than to continue the accounting of what Arnold did wrong. She has not completed the divorce. That fact continues to attract significant attention and generates consistent speculation about why, after more than 14 years, the legal process remains unfinished. Neither Arnold nor Maria has fully explained the reason. They continue to co-parent. They appear at shared family events. Their daughter, Catherine Schwarzenegger Pratt, has described her parents as still finding a way to navigate their relationship for the sake of the family. And her husband, Chris Pratt, has said publicly that he admires how the former couple has managed the co-parenting dynamic. Arnold proposed to his longtime girlfriend, Heather Milligan, who he has been seeing since 2013, but remains legally married to Maria Shriver. The geometry of that situation is one that has not been publicly explained in any satisfying way. So, what exactly is happening between them now? Where they all stand now. At 77 years old, Arnold Schwarzenegger is still one of the most recognizable human beings on the planet. He is a grandfather. His daughter Catherine has 3 children with Chris Pratt. He has warmly spoken about the pleasure of being a grandfather. He has also been in a relationship with Heather Milligan since 2013, a physical therapist who is 35 years younger than him and who has been present in his life for over a decade. He proposed to her in 2024. The relationship appears stable and is one that his children have publicly accepted and supported. His son, Joseph Baena, has become part of the extended Schwarzenegger family public profile over time. Arnold has acknowledged him publicly and has described spending time with him and building a relationship. Joseph has been photographed at events alongside his father and has spoken positively about the bond they have developed, while acknowledging without bitterness that the circumstances of his upbringing were unusual. The work of building a genuine father-son relationship from a starting point of secrecy and public scandal is not something that happens automatically, and the fact that it appears to have happened reflects effort from both of them. Arnold has said in interviews that the affair was the biggest mistake of his personal life. He has not attempted to contextualize it as less serious than it was, or to suggest that his acknowledgement of wrongdoing should be treated as a full accounting. He has said that he damaged people he loved through his choices, and that he carries that. The man who built his entire public identity around the concept of superhuman will and unbreakable discipline, who engineered his own body, engineered his own career, engineered his own political rise, and who used the language of control as his default framework for how he understood every challenge he faced, was unable or unwilling to exercise the most basic form of the discipline he preached in the one area of his life where it most mattered. What do you think about how Arnold has handled the aftermath compared to what Maria has revealed? And why do you think the divorce has not been finalized after all these years? Share your answer in the comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.